SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Jack Hoffman. For nearly 31 years, Tico's Steakhouse has been a staple for fine dining in Jackson, Mississippi. I would like to invite you to come experience our family tradition of our hospitality, sizzling steaks, and healthy poured beverages. Call today or stop in and experience Tico's in the second generation.
With locations in Ridgeland on County Line Road and now on the Square in Oxford.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Well, we've made it to Thursday. Today is October 17th. Welcome. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to have you along. You know that we welcome the conversation with you. C-Spire text line is the way to do that. 601-879-4395. It is always open. You can send a message 24 hours a day. There's a good chance that if it's, outside of about 9:15 or before about 5:45, may not see it. Although you got a really good chance in the overnight hours if you send something, that being the first thing that we see in the morning. But after about 9:15, got to probably keep it in show hours. But if it makes you feel good to fire one off in the middle of the night or the middle of the day, go for it. 601-879-4395, the C-Spire text line, C-Spire, inspired by you. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. We appreciate you joining us to start your Thursday, what appears to be a gorgeous day on the way. Told you it's going to cool off a little bit. It looks like Sunday is the day. Lance, good morning.
Good morning.
What's shaking, brother?
Oh, and the usual. It's Thursday. We're on the downhill slope of this thing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We got a lot of good football this weekend. Great weather.
A lot of road football this weekend at the college level, and that's okay. But, yeah, the weather going to be really, really nice. I was looking at the 10-day, and it looks like it breaks in a lot of places on Sunday, especially Jackson North. Southern part of the state going to stay a little warm, but really, really nice. Like nothing to complain about. Well, let's see, where am I? What is this? This is Oxford. High of 69 on Sunday. Nice. 42 for the low. Then it's going to be in the 70s for the foreseeable future. Almost all the way until Halloween. But that is a couple of days away. We'll live in the moment. How about Hernando? Today, sunny with a high of 87 and winds out of the east at 5 to 10. Aberdeen going to be mainly sunny with 88 degrees for your high temperature. Northeast winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Vicksburg, you're topping out at 90 degrees today. Yeah. Winds light and variable under sunny skies.
Yeah, we got the heat wave going on down here in the central area right now, the 90-degree. But like I said, by Sunday, hopefully we'll get some reprise. 49, though, at in night. Sunday night, it looks like around here. Maybe some showers.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, curling up, watching some football weather.
Knock back the dust a little bit.
Yeah.
Pascagoula, you're going to be sunny today with a high of 86 and winds out of the southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour.
I wouldn't mind having a little bit of rain for the yard. A few plants, but, you're not going to get many more of these warm rains that seem to nourish the plants so very well. So, yeah, if we get one Sunday, that would be nice because there's a few more 80s in there. And it, like you said, it starts getting down into the 70s. That's it sounds like Gerard on the golf course weather. Maybe a cross day out there, too. I don't know.
Possibly.
You got your Waverly shirt on today, I think. So.
Yeah.
I'm envious of that one. That shirt's really nice. I was like, man, that's some thread right there.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
C-Spire text line, we need to make daylight savings time permanent. It keeps the sun out of my eyes on my commute. That's from Sam.
wouldn't disagree with the sun out of your eyes on a commute.
Man, I've had a couple of days recently driving west in the afternoon, and it's like, ooh, because it's not just that it's in front of you, it's in front of you and tilted just a little bit where the flip-down visor doesn't do enough good and your sunglasses aren't stout enough, and, you just hold on and hope that you're not following anybody too closely.
Yeah, Lakeland Drive, when they laid it out, they pretty much gave you an opportunity to get blinded by the sun daily. So if you're at that perfect time, you will definitely be fighting it. So I'm with you, man. Whatever it takes to make your commute easier, I'm in.
Debbie said I was off by a day, and she's right. Today is October 16th, not October 17th. Tomorrow is October 17th. You can celebrate without me. Noah Webster was born on this day in 1758, the American lexicographer. Yes. Webster's Dictionary. If I could get a pronunciation guide for lexicographer, that might help. Born in West Hartford, Connecticut. Angela Lansbury, the Irish-British-American Golden Globe and multi-Tony award-winning stage and screen actress. Gaslight, The Manchurian Candidate, Mame, Murder, She Wrote, Beauty and the Beast. The list goes on and on. Angela Lansbury, born in London, England.
Hey, I watched the original Manchurian Candidate probably about a week ago with Angela and Old Blue Eyes. That is a really good movie in black and white. Good stuff.
Yeah. Tim Robbins, 67 years old, born in 1958. Maybe you remember him from Bull Durham. Maybe it's from the perhaps most played movie in television history, The Shawshank Redemption. Can you think of one that's been played more?
No.
Perhaps Top Gun? Maybe? I mean, is there a day that goes by that you can't find Shawshank on television somewhere? In the edited version? I don't know.
Zawantaneo, I think he put that on the map, right?
John Mayer is 48 today, born in 1977, the American guitarist and singer-songwriter. Man, he's had some hits. Your Body is a Wonderland, Waiting for the World to Change. Born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Played with Dead & Company for a little while as well. Or is he still?
I don't know if he's still with them. I think they, when they hit the road, he's been the front man, but not quite sure at this point. Yeah, good call, Ray. Pretty Woman, it's on regularly as well.
Yeah. Do. Bryce Harper, 33 years old today. 1992 is when he was born. 7-time All-Star. National League MVP in 2015 and 2021. Played with the Nationals and the Phillies, born in Las Vegas, Nevada. I can't decide if him being 33 makes me feel old, or how is he only 33?
Yeah, he's had a career already.
I mean, he burst onto the scene at 16 years old at a high school home run derby that was held at Tropicana Field, where he was just hitting missiles. Went the junior college route, and then straight to the big leagues so he wouldn't have to go 3 years of college, but needed a year of JUCO ball, and man, what a career he's had. On this day in 1690, the English demand the surrender of Quebec. And French Governor Louis de Bois de Frontenac replied, I have no reply to make to your general other than from the mouths of my cannon and muskets.
Take this, man.
Demand denied. It's the toughest thing anybody from France has ever said in their lives. Anybody, like in the history of the world.
I think so, yeah.
1875, that is the year, this is the day that Brigham Young University was founded in Provo, Utah. What a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. 1950, the first edition of C.S. Lewis's The Lion, The Witch and the Wardrobe, released in London. What an author C.S. Lewis was. 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins as President John F. Kennedy is shown those grainy photos confirming the presence of Soviet missiles in Cuba.
Wouldn't you love to be the guy having to figure out what those grainy lines were on the grainy photos and the grainy everything? It looks like that would be difficult.
I mean, Lance, we're, 63 years removed from that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine in today's political climate, there's no way Russia could move missiles all the way to Cuba and us not detect them, or somebody not detect them until they got there.
And we're actually almost operational.
In the event that somehow that actually happened, can you imagine? 90 miles off the coast, the southern coast of Florida, the tip of Florida. Is that right? Isn't it 90 miles?
It's not far. I mean, you could skip a rock.
Whew. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know
We'll play some of it for you later this morning, I think. But genuinely concerned for John Fetterman's safety.
Yes, sir.
And I mean that in like the most serious way possible. He is speaking openly. He is speaking honestly. He is speaking truthfully. He was on a panel last night at the Kennedy Center with, what was it, Chris Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly and Stephen A. Smith. I think that was the crew. And he's tired of the nonsense. Like there is a common sense approach that John Fetterman applies to he is very much a Democrat. Very much. And I feel like I've been on this roller coaster with John Fetterman. Right? He was the Democrat that couldn't put together a sentence when he was running. And for the longest time, you weren't even sure why, but he was recovering from a stroke.
And you remember he was always wearing the hoodies and
Yeah.
It was a lot that was like, how's this guy going to win?
So it started that way, and it was you can't be serious. This guy's not running for and he's running against Dr. Oz. And then he says things as he has become more coherent and more easily able to understand. And you're like, well, listen to him. That's kind of interesting. But it almost felt performative. Because then he would go back and he would vote the way he does or stand in line with Democrats. But over time, and I think this is a testament to him being true to who he is, John Fetterman might be the most authentic member of Congress. He is a Democrat that believes in common sense. Now, I understand that sometimes putting those two together in the same sentence creates an unbelievable sentence. Not trying to do that. John Fetterman believes in Democrat principles. He absolutely does. and he's a My Party guy, and he was out campaigning like crazy for Kamala Harris, and even when Bill O'Reilly put him on the spot last night, he wouldn't completely throw her under the bus. Bill O'Reilly asked John Fetterman if Kamala Harris could have gotten the ceasefire deal done between Israel and Hamas, and he never directly said, no, she can't. And O'Reilly pressed him on it. He's like, but could she have gotten it done? And he simply praised Donald Trump. It's like, look, this was a hard thing to do, and Donald Trump deserves all the credit, and on and on and on. But even as it's become abundantly clear what a disaster she would have been as a president, because he's a party guy, he's not going to completely throw Kamala Harris under the bus. But he says, good job, Donald Trump. No, I'm not calling you people fascist. I'm not calling people Nazis, because I understand the gravity of the meaning of those words and those labels. And that's not what Donald Trump is, and that's not what Republicans are, and that's not what people who support Republicans are. Those are truly evil words and evil terms, and I'm not doing it. I'm concerned for his safety. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's like, I'm just going to do my thing, and I'm going to be real, and if you don't like it, don't vote for me. But it may be refreshing to the people of Pennsylvania. A couple of other things from this day. 1982, Secretary of State George Shultz warns that the United States will withdraw from the United Nations if it votes to exclude Israel. 1982, 2025, everything that's old is new again. How about this? In 1986, Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards organized a concert to celebrate Chuck Berry's 60th birthday at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. You think this would have been cool? Playing in this, you had Keith Richards, Chuck Berry himself, Johnny Johnson, Eric Clapton, Etta James, Linda Ronstadt, Robert Cray, Julian Lennon, and others. What a show that would have been. 2004, 17-year-old Lionel Messi made his debut for FC Barcelona. It was a 1-0 win against their crosstown rivals Espanyol, commonly ranked as the best player in the world and rated by some as the greatest ever. He holds record after record, has played for FC Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, and Inter Miami. Led Argentina to the World Cup finals in 2014 and to a World Cup victory in 2022. His resume truly is complete. All right, some news headlines for you. Charles Ray Crawford is dead. The Mississippi inmate who had been on death row for more than 3 decades officially executed last night. Department of Corrections lethally injected him at Parchman, 6 o'clock last night, pronounced dead at 6:15. Convicted of the kidnapping, rape, and killing of the Northeast Mississippi Community College student Christy Ray back in 1993. An awful story then, an awful story now. Reported to have committed these acts against a 20-year-old from Tippah County 4 days before he was set to stand trial on separate aggravated assault and rape charges. The pending charges against Crawford in part led him to receive the death sentence. His legal team tried to take this all the way to the Supreme Court to review his case for possible constitutional violations, saying that his lawyers, the lawyers representing him in court in his capital murder trial, erred when they conceded that he was guilty of kidnapping, raping, and killing against his wishes. They did not succeed. Despite all of their 11th hour pleas, the governor reviewed the case with his legal team. They said, shoot him up. And they did. Scott Colomb, who is trying to win the Republican, the Senate seat from Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, announced a historic milestone yesterday. Press release from his camp, Scott Colomb's camp, said that he's raised nearly $600,000 with over $580,000 in cash on hand. That's in the 27 days since launching his campaign. It's the most any Democratic Senate candidate in Mississippi has ever raised in the first quarter. In their first quarter. Previous high was Mike Espy's $414,000 when running against Cindy Hyde-Smith back in 2020. We don't know exactly how much money Cindy Hyde-Smith has raised in the most recent completed quarter, but as of June 30th, she had $1.4 million cash on hand. Colomb was nominated by former President Joe Biden to serve as a judge in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Mississippi. Remember, he says that he has forgiven Cindy Hyde-Smith for her actions in keeping him from gaining that position. He's a former judge and prosecutor, currently the district attorney in a district that includes Lowndes, Oktibbeha, Clay, and Noxubee counties. He's held the position for over a decade, and he's gotten some bipartisan support along the way on his way to being reelected 2 times. Going to be a busy primary field. Let's see. Primary races and all 4 of the House races will be held March 10th. That's this coming March 10th. April 7th, potential runoffs, general election, November 3rd. You've got Republicans Sarah Adlaka and Andrew Scott Smith in the field, Democrat Priscilla Williams-Till, and Independent Ty Pinkeys all also running for the seat currently held by Cindy Hyde-Smith. The Charlie Kirk founded organization Turning Point USA announced yesterday that United States Vice President J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk will be the featured speakers in an event at Ole Miss on October 29th. The event will be part of the organization's This is the Turning Point tour and will occur at 6:30 that night. Admission free, ticket priority going to students. Had a big announcement on the Turning Point radio show yesterday. Vice President coming to Oxford. Expected to be a massive crowd at the pavilion for that one. We will keep you up to date on all the news surrounding that Turning Point event at Ole Miss. Quick timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross. Almost just after 6:30.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning to you. Mornings with Richard Cross, 6:38 on this Thursday, the 16th of October. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our communities, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business. We're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. You heard about this from Tupelo. A series of complaints about an individual selling controlled substances in northeast Mississippi has led to the arrest of a known criminal and the confiscation of a large quantity of drugs. Law enforcement in the Tupelo area received reports that Anthony Travis Owens, 28 years old, was selling illegal substances, prompting the North Mississippi Narcotics Unit, along with the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, to launch a bit of an investigation. Led to the execution of a search warrant, 2600 block of McCullough Boulevard in Tupelo. During the operation, agents and officers made contact with Owens, and they recovered more than 55 pounds of marijuana, 3 firearms, and more than $100,000 in seized property. I read that as cash the first time, so property, $100,000.
Got to be the vehicle, too, probably.
Maybe some jewelry.
Yeah.
Some bling.
Well, I mean, if you're rolling around with 50 pounds of the green stuff, you probably got some bling, yeah.
Well, and probably got some cash, too.
Yeah. Got some folding money come unstole.
Owens was handcuffed and charged with trafficking a Schedule I controlled substance. The suspect, who was already out on bond for 3 separate fentanyl distribution charges, was denied bond for the new charge. 55 pounds of dope. What's the street value of that, Lance?
Ooh,
you got a guess?
Yeah, I guess. That's millions,
Let's
see. I can do some math quickly.
What is 55 pounds?
Well, it's a pound, 16 ounces, so.
Marijuana. Oh, shoot. Not mine. Worth in Mississippi. Oh, not really all that much. I mean, a lot, but not as much as you might think.
About 250,000, roughly.
Oh, this was saying 88 to 150.
I'd say about
Potentially more, depending on the quality.
Well, I would imagine if
top shelf.
Well, if
indoor,
you're breaking it down,
KB.
If you're breaking it down, 55. If you're selling all that, wholesale, you're going to get a lot less. But if you're breaking it down and selling it yourself, you're going to make a lot more money that way, like everybody does on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine 100 to 250 range, depending on what the end use was, who was going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, about 200,000 looks about right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, I'm obviously not a pot dealer, so, I mean, I was like, millions. Sounds like a lot of money to me.
I thought you were going to say buyer, and then you said dealers. I thought you were going to just pull yourself completely out of the equation.
Oh, no, man. You got to leave some mystery out there.
Do you know? Yeah. Do you know? Is the home team ever going to win a game? ALCS rolled on last night, and the Toronto Bats finally came to life. 13-4 the final. Seattle struck first, and Mariners fans were thrilled. Carried a 2-0 lead into the third inning, but then it was 5 in the third, 1 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth, 4 in the sixth, and then cruised to the victory for Toronto. George Springer had 3 hits. Vlad Guerrero Jr. went 4 for 4 with 3 runs scored. Big night up and down the lineup for Toronto. How good must that have felt for the Blue Jays, by the way, after going down 2-0, losing both of them at home? They will now try to even the series as the ALCS continues tonight in Seattle. They're the late game. The early game, Brewers at Dodgers. When is the last time the Dodgers got that treatment? That the Dodgers were the early start time. 5:08 Central Time first pitch. That's a 3:08 first pitch on the West Coast for the Brewers and the Dodgers on TBS. Blue Jays and Mariners first pitch, 7:33 on Fox Sports.
Yeah, I say Cal Riley's kind of like can't miss baseball.
FS1, Fox Sports 1 is what I meant to say.
I didn't mean to jump on you.
No, you're good.
Cal Riley, man, he's just can't miss baseball. 3 bombs in the postseason, 60.
The big dumper?
Yeah, I mean, dude can play. I mean, he's a catcher. You see that too often, buddy. Goodness gracious.
Nope, you don't. We started last week that the football nirvana or whatever it is where you have a football game on every single day for, 46 straight days or something like that. So, got some college football scores. You had 3 games on Tuesday, a couple of games last night. Jacksonville State, a 38-25 winner over Delaware.
The Blue Hens.
Uh-huh. And what did I see? I saw that there was a touchdown that was scored by Scott Spencer's son, the former wrestler. Does that ring a bell for you? Do anything for you?
No, sir.
Okay. Maybe I just made that up.
I don't know who Scott Spencer is, though. You got me on all of that.
Okay. I may have the names wrong altogether because I'm not really a wrestling guy.
Yeah, I don't know much about. I know the old school wrestling, but
yeah,
not the newer stuff.
And UTEP beat Sam Houston 35-17 last night. That was 2 bad teams in a bad game. Sam Houston 0-7 under Phil Longo as the head coach.
Ooh, chasing some grass out there, huh?
Tulsa and East Carolina tonight in Greenville, North Carolina at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. So that's coming up. You've got pretty good slate of games this weekend. Top 25 matchups. College football games involving top 25 teams get started tomorrow night. Louisville is at number 2, Miami. Number 25, Nebraska is at Minnesota. Nebraska 5-1. Their head coach, Matt Rule, linked to the job opening at Penn State. Then on Saturday, right out of the gate, 11 a.m., danger spot for LSU. The Tigers, an underdog on the road at Vanderbilt. That's right. LSU, 2.5-point underdog on the road at number 17, Vanderbilt. Number 12, Georgia Tech travels to Duke. Number 14, Oklahoma is at South Carolina. Look out. Oklahoma, 5.5-point favorite. I don't know. Number 1, Ohio State is at Wisconsin. That kicks at 2:30 on CBS. Wisconsin undefeated, Ohio State undefeated and really good. Wisconsin, 2-4, 0-3 in the league. That's why Ohio State is a 25.5-point favorite. Number 3, Indiana. That's real. That's not made up. Number 3, Indiana. Perfect through the halfway mark of the season, hosting Michigan State. Number 4, Texas A&M in Fayetteville to take on Arkansas at 2:30. Number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia. The TV number for this game will be huge. Georgia, a 7.5-point favorite. Number 7, Texas Tech travels to the desert to take on Arizona State in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. Memphis still undefeated. They are ranked 22nd in the country. They're headed to Birmingham to take on UAB. Memphis, 22.5-point favorite against a team that just fired its coach. Oregon trying to bounce back from their first loss of the season at 5-1. They travel all the way across the country to Rutgers for a conference game. Washington State, who was in Oxford last weekend, is in Charlottesville this weekend. Virginia, a 17.5-point favorite against the Cougs. In the night games, number 21, Texas, is at Kentucky. Number 6, Alabama, hosting number 11, Tennessee. Southern Cal at Notre Dame in a top 20 matchup. South Florida hosting FAU. Missouri headed to Auburn. Is this the last one?
That's a great question, huh?
Top 25 matchup, the Holy War. Utah and BYU. Number 24, Cincinnati, is at Oklahoma State. Mississippi State travels to Gainesville. No top 25 teams there. Another question of, is this the last one for Billy Napier?
Been saying that for 3 years, huh?
Yeah, but
we're there, huh?
This week feels a little different. We'll wrap up the 6 o'clock hour with you next. Those are your sports headlines brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
MRC with you on a Thursday morning. Thanks for joining us. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Sometimes you have interviews or public forums, town halls, where you're like, was that real? Did they really just give me all of that audio content? All of it? I don't have to pay for it. It's just right out there. When you get John Fetterman and AOC in different places on the same night, man, it's like a treasure trove of audio content, and you wonder how you have time to share it all. We'll try. First, though, a Mississippi lottery update. MSLottery.com is the website for you to keep up with all that's happening in the Mississippi lottery. No jackpot winner last night in Powerball, which means Saturday night's drawing is up to $295 million. Pot is almost right. Estimated cash value, $138,100,000. Last night's numbers, 10, 13, 28, 34, 47. The Powerball was 15. The Power Play multiplier, 3. The one that we're really watching now is Mega Millions, where the jackpot is up to $625 million. The estimated cash value, $288,800,000, so approaching $300 million in cash value for you. The numbers from Tuesday night's drawing, 12, 22, 49, 57, 58. The Mega Ball was 19. And finally, a Mississippi Match 5 jackpot winner. Ticket purchased at US 90 Quick Stop in Bay St. Louis matched all 5 numbers to win the $80,000 jackpot. Estimated jackpot for tonight resets to $50,000. Those winning numbers were 8, 14, 16, 19, and 25. So congratulations. Good stuff there. Oh, I forgot. It wasn't just public forums and town halls and speeches and radio interviews and sit-downs and Q&As. It was also the Supreme Court that provided content for us yesterday. None other than Ketanji Jackson Brown, KJB of SCOTUS. Remember Louisiana versus Calais being arguments being heard yesterday, oral arguments before the Supreme Court. This is about, ultimately, the repeal of the Voter Rights Act and the idea that you must have majority-minority districts. State of Louisiana arguing that in and of itself is unconstitutional. Ketanji Jackson Brown says there's part of the reason you need that is because blacks are disabled. Here are her words.
I guess I'm thinking of it, of the fact that remedial action, absent discriminatory intent, is really not a new idea in the civil rights laws. And my kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disabled.
There it is.
In
There it
Milligan.
is.
We say that's a way
She
in
said
which
they're
you
disabled.
see that these
We can
processes
stop it
are
there.
not.
Wow.
She said, it is such, like the Americans with Disabilities Act, that minority voters don't have equal access to the voting system. They are disabled. In fact, we use the word disabled, and she goes on and on and on. If you're a black voter, do you hear that and just throw your hands in the air and go, why do I even try? That's what Ketanji Jackson Brown thinks of you. You deserve to have a majority-minority district, therefore ushering in people like Benny Thompson where they don't actually have to win a race because of the way the district is drawn. They don't have to be competitive. They just got to show up. And it's because you're disabled. You can't function like a normal voter.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
7 o'clock hour, Thursday morning, the 16th of October. Mornings with Richard Cross. Glad to have you along for the ride. MRC is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. CC in Senatobia says Ketanji Jackson Brown is the only one disabled, mentally disabled. Gary in Carrollton, though I'm sure she didn't mean it literally, I'm actually going to pass on that one, Gary. Thank you. Amanda in Pike County, so having a darker skin pigmentation is a disability? Is that what KJB is saying? Walter in Tupelo, with Mississippi being 40% Democrat, shouldn't Mississippi have 2/5 House seats instead of just one? Well, if the people elected 2 out of 5. I mean, Walter, are you in favor of just assigning? And by the way, we only have 4 congressional seats, not 5. Used to have 5, only got 4 now. Are you saying that we should just assign those seats based on race? I mean, it sounds to me like that's what you're saying. That our congressional district... Walter, you just said the quiet part out loud. You believe that the seats should be signed based on race, not based on votes. That you should say, well, this is the way that people are scattered. This is where they live. And so we should draw the district lines. Okay, you said didn't say anything about race. No, you said about political party. I think you said something about race by saying Democrat. I think that you were using whisper terms, but that's okay. You can say by political party. So in your view, Walter, actually, Walter, I'm not sure I hate that idea. I'm not sure I hate that idea because California is 40% Republican. Let's do that in California, too. Is that how you want to do it? Say, okay, Republicans live here, Democrats live here. And by the way, Walter, how do you change that when somebody switches parties or somebody moves in? You shift the district lines then? You're saying that because more Democrats live in certain parts of the state, that seats should be assigned based on whether you're Democrat or Republican. Story yesterday on The Hill, thehill.com. And Walter says that I did that, not him. He says that he didn't say anything about race, that I implied Democrat as meaning black, and that's on me. Well, we were speaking, Walter, specifically about the story from Ketanji Jackson Brown, the Supreme Court Justice, who described blacks as disabled. Her words, not mine. And then you rolled it into the conversation, and you tried to change it to Democrat versus black, and then you accused me of using a dog whistle, I think. I think that's what just happened.
Why would we not, and again, it's just a thought, and I mentioned this the other day, with a state of 2.943 million people, you divide that by 4, that's 735,750 people per district if you go with congressional districts. Why wouldn't you just have the maps made up to represent
750,000 times 4.
735, 750 times 4, and just break the districts up that way. Let everyone compete fairly. I mean, then you go to bestneighborhoods.org, which is a great site. It has a lot of information, but you have all your demographic information there about Mississippi, and you can look at it. I mean, the black population is centered in the Delta and in Jackson, fact, and then just north of Meridian. So, I mean, like, are we going to just continue gerrymandering districts based on race, which is supposedly illegal? I mean, it just doesn't make much sense. Why you say, and then you got a Supreme Court justice up there claiming that black folks are disabled. What, can they not get to the polls? Or, I mean, what kind of disability? I'd love to hear her expand upon that.
No, I don't think you would.
Yeah, that's right. I'd love to.
Or maybe you would.
I'd love to hear the thesaurus.
Maybe you really would.
I'd love to hear the her thesaurus and her read straight from it, because I'm really curious what she meant. I would take great offense if I was black. I take great offense, and I'm white, that she said that about black people.
According to a poll from YouGov and The Economist, Americans are more likely to blame Republicans than Democrats for the ongoing shutdown. But it's shifting. Only 6 points separate the parties in this week's poll, which shows 39% of surveyed Americans blame President Trump and the Republicans in Congress for the shutdown. 33% blame Democrats in the Congress. Last week, 11 points separated the two sides, with 41% blaming Trump and the GOP in Congress, 30% blaming the Democrats, but that is shifting. By the way, there have been 9 votes in the Senate, and all 9 times Democrats have voted to keep the government closed. The GOP is in the process of ramping up. I wouldn't call it a nuclear option, but ramping up the political pain for Democrats on the shutdown. Senate Republicans applying pressure to Democrats, taking away a vote on a Democratic alternative to open the government and blaming the party for worsening the hardship. Tuesday night, the Senate rejected a House GOP measure to open the government. 49-45 was the vote. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada and Angus King, an independent from Maine, were the only members of the Democrat caucus who voted to advance it. John Fetterman actually missed this vote. He has previously voted to reopen the government. No Democrats shifted from their previous position. Until this week, Senate Majority Leader John Thune has allowed Democrats to easily schedule votes on their competing funding proposal, but with the shutdown entering its 3rd week, he is going with tougher tactics. For the first time since the government shutdown, Thune scheduled only one vote to reopen the government, denying Democrats an opportunity to vote on their own government funding proposal, which has given them some political cover until now. He and other GOP leaders blasted Democrats for hurting military families after setting up the vote before the critical October 15th payday for more than 1 million military service members. I thought this was a pretty good message. No to Walter's idea. I have a designated party, but I vote based on which candidate I think is better.
Is anybody getting tired of the racial junk? I mean, one of our listeners made a point. You know, when does it get old enough for everybody to abandon this strategy of using race baiting and all this as the fallback? When can you get just to some issues and solve some problems? I mean, I sent you something a week ago about China building a bridge. We can't build a bridge in 10 years. Okay, well, why don't we get back to doing something? I mean, I study economics pretty regularly, and we seem to be sitting on our hands when the rest of the world is trying and doing and building and all this. And here we are sitting back debating race. Really? Still? Does it ever get old, people? Because I'm sick of it, honestly. I'm sick of hearing this junk all the time out of leaders that are baiting and pointing fingers like the white people in this country hate blacks or something. I mean, this is getting old, man. And I'm getting sick of it, to be honest with you, especially coming from the top. And there's only one party that seems to embrace this mindset. And they want to just keep it as it is. Go look at one district in the state of Mississippi that's had zero progress. None. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get.
Despite the amount,
the billions that go into
despite the amount of money that has been allocated to the 2nd Congressional District in Mississippi in the time that Benny Thompson has been the representative from that part of the state. AOC was on a town hall yesterday with others, and she was talking about some of the things that corporations are doing to poison communities.
Areas were on fire because of.
Let me start this over.
Rivers in rural areas were on fire because of corporations poisoning the people who lived in those areas. Poor middle-class communities getting poisoned and dumped on by corporations like Deloitte and
corporations like Deloitte. Oh, really? What were they doing? Were they using pipes to dump their printer ink into rivers? Deloitte is an accounting firm.
You can just make up what you want these days, man. You know that.
I'm assuming, and this is a large assumption, I'm assuming she meant DuPont, maybe? Or some other company that starts with a D, but I'm pretty sure Deloitte was not setting rivers on fire by dumping chemicals into them. It seems a little out of character for that particular company. Thanks for playing, AOC. Mornings with Richard Cross rolls on after this. Thanks for being with us.
And when I reach the other side.
From the Venable.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Wash away my troubles, wash away my pain, with the rain and shambhala. Wash away my sorrow, wash away my shame, with the rain and shambhala.
Changes have gone into effect at the Pentagon, and way the news will be reported, the way access will be allowed to journalists. We'll get to that in just a moment. I've got one more for you from John Fetterman. So it was this was Chris Cuomo's town hall. It was held at the Kennedy Center last night. The panelists were John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, Bill O'Reilly, Stephen A. Smith, and Chris Cuomo. Those were the ones on stage. They took a bunch of questions from the audience in the town hall event. Fetterman was asked about the government shutdown, and here's what he had to say.
That's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party. And it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have... I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down.
That's John Fetterman. I'm telling you, Democrats are going to be furious with him. Probably already are. He says shutting the government down is something that Democrats wanted to do. Yes, I want to have a conversation about the ACA subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies. But let's do that with the government open. And oh, by the way, the expiration date on the subsidies is something that was designed by the Democrats, not Republicans. We, Fetterman says, are the ones that put the expiration dates into the law.
I love the starting point, too, where he says we're in a period of chaos. Well, who inflicted the chaos? I mean, I doubt he's going to mention that, but let's be realistic. At least he's being truthful as far as some legislation. But, I mean, the chaos that we're experiencing here, a period of chaos. Who is in charge of that chaos? The Democrats and leftists and all that? Because I don't see a whole lot of righties out there doing anything other than rounding up illegals and trying to get them to go back to their house. Not here, where they're from.
David in Thaxton says, in my opinion, the whole racial division was dead or on life support until Barack Obama was elected and everything became about race. If you didn't vote for him or didn't agree with him and his policies, then you were called a racist. It's been the Democrat word of the day ever since.
And he was pointing fingers at black men, about a year ago, 6-8 months ago, calling them out for not voting in a town hall meeting, chastising them.
And we were reminded last week, and I say reminded, our conversation with Joe Stradinger from Edge Theory last week, I thought was so incredibly enlightening. He used the example of the Jackson water crisis from a couple of years ago when he talked about the narrative influence. If you missed that conversation, I'd love for you to go back and listen to it. A really good conversation. Joe runs a company called Edge Theory, and they operate in narrative intelligence. It uses an AI backbone system to gather narratives that are being promoted from across the world to influence the way people think. And he pointed to that Jackson water crisis, and he said, look, this was a relatively local issue, certainly local to Mississippi, hyper local to the Jackson metro area, and yet you had players, bots, and others on both sides of the issue that were pumping in information into all of our social media feeds and all of the ways that we consume news, not with the goal of influencing the conversation one way or the other, but simply with the goal of sowing discord within, in this case, Mississippians, Jacksonians, just to get people mad at each other. And that's a lot of the Russian influence. That's a lot of the Chinese influence globally. They think that a divided America is better for them in terms of achieving their goals on the global stage, the geopolitical stage. And if you don't think that's used in race conversations, then you're crazy. It may have been brought to light during the Obama administration, but it was amplified through outside players. I've said it 1,000,000 times. I'm exaggerating, but I certainly have said it hundreds of times. If you want an example of how races get along together, Mississippi, with its checkered past, with its ugly past in a lot of cases, I think might be the beacon on the hill, the shining light on the hill for what race relations are supposed to look like. Because outside of the online narrative, if you will, we get along quite well, thank you very much. We work together, we play together, we go to school together. In some cases, we worship together, and in the cases in which we don't worship together, it's by choice. not by dictate, not by demand. We are drawn to people who look like us, live like us, believe like us. And that's the reason we don't have black churches and white churches because blacks aren't welcome in white churches or whites aren't welcome in black churches. We hang with our people for the most part. And that's by choice, not because it has to be that way. And people are okay with it. But in terms of work environment, school environment, athletics environment, day-to-day life environment, our relationships among people with different skin colors in Mississippi are fine and good and healthy. And I would argue they're better than they are in lots and lots of parts of the country. Was it 40% of the population? 38% of the population, give or take, in Mississippi is African American? That's a significant part of the state. Starting yesterday, all but one media outlet regularly covering the Department of War is losing access to the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth demanded that reporters agree by 5 p.m. on Tuesday to a new policy under which they would pledge to not obtain or use any unauthorized material, even if the information is unclassified, or hand over their press badges within 24 hours. Media outlets say that that's a violation of their First Amendment rights, and nearly every news outlet has refused to sign. The rejections mean that for the first time since the Eisenhower administration, no major U.S. television network or publication will have a permanent presence in the Pentagon. News outlets have pushed back. The only outlet that agreed to sign the recognition was OAN, American News Now. Reporters from ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, the AP, Bloomberg, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Guardian, the Atlantic, Financial Times, Politico, NPR, and others have all said, nope, we're not going to sign it. And so about 50 of them turned in their press badges yesterday. Under the new rules, the journalists are technically not barred from investigating, reporting, or publishing stories on the military using information deemed sensitive or classified, but they could be deemed a vague security or safety risk should they ask Defense Department personnel for such information according to the rules. This is heavy-handed by the Department of War and Pete Hegseth. It is. But one of the things that Pete Hegseth immediately discovered when he became secretary of what was then the Department of Defense, is now the Department of War, was that they had a leak problem within the Pentagon. Defense Department officials, War Department officials, who were not aligned with the current administration, or previous administrations for that matter, were leaking sensitive information to the press. And then the press were publishing those stories. In some cases, it was classified information. Not just in the Department of Defense / Department of War, but also in the CIA, the FBI, the intelligence community as a whole. And he said, well, we're going to stop this, and here's how we're going to stop it. You had reporters that were just kind of roaming the halls of the Pentagon, talking to whomever. I know it's apples and oranges, but college football says, hi, Department of Defense. It's not the same thing, right? But it's not like you've got reporters roaming the halls of the SEAL facility or the Manning Center reporting whatever they want. Now, Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, and we are pleased to be joined by Congressman Michael Guest this morning. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. Good to talk to you again.
You as well, and I appreciate some of your time. What's the mood like in D.C. right now as we're now into week 3 of the federal government shutdown? We've seen 9 votes on the Senate side of the Congress, and all 9 times Democrats have voted to keep the government shuttered for now. How frustrating is this for you and your colleagues?
Well, it's extremely frustrating because, there are a number of things that we have to get done between now and the end of the calendar year that we're unable to work on during the government shutdown. The biggest of those are the appropriations bills. The end of the fiscal year would have been October 1st, and so that was what prompted the government shutdown. But we were very close, House and Senate, on being able to negotiate the differences between the chamber bills for at least 3 of the 12 spending bills, with hopes to get those 3 on the floor shortly after October 1st and then move on to the other bills. And the plan was to have all 12 spending bills passed by both chambers, signed by the president between now and the end of the year. That work has stopped. There's also some work in the Homeland Security Committee that we were looking at potential legislation to continue to try to provide additional resources to the Department of Homeland Security as they continue to secure the border, continue their effort to deport illegal immigrants. And so a lot of that work has stopped across Congress. And so there is a sense of frustration that, look, we know that the American people sent us to Washington for change. Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House. Now is the opportunity for us to move forward. And that momentum that we had going into the shutdown has been blunted by the Democrats. And look, I believe that was part of their strategy all along, Richard, is that they were looking for this government shutdown as a way to take away the momentum of Republicans, take away momentum of the president, and really stall what we have been able to do so far this year.
What do you make of what John Fetterman said in that town hall that was at the Kennedy Center last night, hosted by Chris Cuomo, where he absolutely unequivocally said the shutdown belongs to the Democrats? It's what they wanted to do, and that's why he has continued to vote against it, because he doesn't think it's the right thing to do.
I think that's becoming more and more apparent to the American people that, look, this is something that Chuck Schumer, after he agreed to the original CR earlier in the year, everybody saw that once that CR expired, that the Democrats were looking to shut down the government. They wanted to shut down the government because they wanted to blunt the momentum of the Republicans. They wanted to be able to show their base that they were fighting for the Democrat cause, particularly to pander to the far left of their base, who was so infuriated by Chuck Schumer last shutdown that many people were prompting AOC to primary Chuck Schumer in the next Senate cycle. And so this is something I think that the Democrats have been forced into by their base. And at this point, they've been unable to find an off-ramp. I have been hearing now, this is since the shutdown began, I had been hearing rumors that the shutdown would likely last through this coming weekend because of the rally there in D.C., that the Democrat base wanted the government shut down, felt like that would really motivate some of those progressives, some of the socialists in their party, and would also kind of provide them some insulation so that they would not be attacked during the rallies this weekend, not attacked not physically, but attacked politically. And I think that's exactly how things have played out. Fetterman has been a voice of reason in the Democrat Party throughout this. He has been a constant vote to keep the government open, and his vote has been consistent, whether Democrats were seeking the CR or Republicans. And so you can clearly see that he has been someone that the American people really agree with with his views of the shutdown, and he has become a voice of reason for the Democrats in the United States Senate.
And maybe who saw that coming? We get a question on the C Spire text line this morning. It says, small business owner, and my health insurance is increasing by $450 a month if Congress doesn't extend the ACA provisions. Will you ask the congressman what his plan is to stop that from happening? And Congressman, we know that subsidies exist all across government for lots and lots of different things, lots of different entities, lots of different sectors of the economy and sectors of business. But this is certainly concerning to a lot of people. When Obamacare came on board, the Affordable Care Act, it was, hey, this is a way to provide insurance for more Americans, for all Americans to make it available. But it only worked financially if the government subsidized the cost of those provisions. So what do you say to small business owners in Mississippi and in your district and others that go, I don't know how I'm going to afford this healthcare insurance that the government has mandated that I have if it goes up by $450 a month or well over $5,000 a year?
Yeah, and what I have said repeatedly, Richard, since this has begun, is look, we've got to get the government reopened so that we can have these negotiations. I am against just a blanket extension of the Obamacare enhanced subsidies. If we're going to extend those subsidies, I think we need to look at a couple different things. One, we need to look at making sure that we put income limits on those subsidies. When I'm traveling across the state and when I tell people that 35% of all the subsidies go to families making $100,000 or more, some of those subsidies going to families who make $200,000 to $300,000. Many people in Mississippi are shocked. They believe that this is a program designed to help the working poor, designed to help those people who are just above the poverty level. And when I tell them the income level that some of the individuals qualify for these subsidies, people in Mississippi are shocked by that. And so Republicans want to look at putting income caps limits on those subsidies. We also need to put in guardrails to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. There are what are known as phantom policies that are out there where insurance companies are being paid for policies that don't actually match up with individuals. And so we have that waste, fraud, and abuse that Republicans have been seeking to root out since President Trump was sworn into office. And the third thing I'll say is, look, if this is so important that we need to shut down the government, if this is where the Democrats feel like that this is the most important issue facing America today, then I challenge the Democrats when we reopen the government to come up with a plan to pay for a program that is going to be at a minimum $500 billion. And so what does that look like? Where can we find areas where we can cut? Where are Democrat programs where we can take money from those programs to pay for this program? If you're in the state legislature and you want to create a program, you've got to find a way to fund that program. You've got to find a way to pay for that program. In Washington, we create programs that we do not fund, and we just add that cost to our national debt. And I'm opposed to adding an additional $500 billion in new debt to pay for this. But I am open to the conversation of how do we pay for it, what kind of income cap limits, and what kind of guardrails need to be put on the program. And look, those are discussions that we need to be having, but those discussions can only occur once the government reopens.
Is that $500 billion a year?
No, that would be $500 billion over 10 years. So that is a 10-year cost. The program is roughly
$50 billion a year.
$50 billion a year, and so that would be $500 billion over a decade. If you expand that permanently, then that $500 billion, of course, grows for each and every year that the program continues to remain funded.
Certainly is a lot of money, and I'm assuming that your Democrat colleagues don't have much of an appetite for talking about where they want to cut funding.
I have not heard that, nor have I heard really much of an appetite for even the income cap limits. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, which I would argue is not affordable. If it was affordable, we wouldn't need subsidy to continue to prop up the ACA. But the ACA, I think as a whole, has not been a program or has not been the program that was sold to the American people. It was sold to us that this was going to be affordable health care that this was going to be a way to provide more people health care at a lower cost. And I think that the ACA has failed on that. I think that this is a program that only exists because of government subsidies. Without those subsidies, it would not be affordable. And so I think we need, as a Congress, to look at the health care model as a whole. Let's just not look at these subsidies. That is a piece of that. But let's look at what we can do to bring down insurance premiums across the board. Let's see what we can do to bring down healthcare costs, because we know healthcare costs, they are a driver of our national debt, which is now knocking on $38 trillion. And so this is something that Congress needs to continue to look at, but we can't look at it when the government is shut down.
Congressman, you got time to hang with me through the break for just a couple more minutes?
I do, Richard.
Michael Guest, Congressman for the state of Mississippi, representing the 3rd District. We've got more to get into with him on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross has been brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call them today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Congressman Michael Guest is my guest right now. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District in Washington, D.C. Congressman, yesterday was a significant day at the Supreme Court. They were hearing oral arguments in the Louisiana versus Calais case, and it didn't get a lot of coverage until you started seeing clips of what was being said by some of the justices during those oral arguments yesterday. There's a lot to this case, but I think at its core, it's looking, it being the Supreme Court, is looking at whether or not the Voting Rights Act of 1965 actually violates the United States Constitution in terms of the way that district maps are drawn for congressional seating, I guess would be the way to say it, across the country. What is your reaction to some of what you heard yesterday and what that might mean for the state of Mississippi?
What was not surprised, particularly if you look at kind of the breakdown of the justices and their political leaning, it seems like those justices who we believe lean more conservative were asking questions that would tend to indicate that they might vote to strike down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, while the more liberal, progressive justices, their questions seem to be towards propping up that section of the Voting Rights Act. It's something that there has been ongoing discussion. We see regularly when congressional districts are drawn, and even when you have some state representative and state Senate districts. A lot of times those districts are later challenged in federal court. And one of the challenges you often see is the racial makeup of districts. We talk about gerrymandering all the time, and the reason that districts were drawn, while we used to see more gerrymandering, I believe, based on race, much of it now is based on political party. And the party that controls each state tries to draw as many safe districts for their party and as few districts as possible for the opposition party. And that has become increasingly common. And it does appear, from the questioning, that there is a likelihood that possibly next year, when an opinion is returned on this case, that it could strike down Section 2. I don't know the impact that would have in Mississippi. I look at our neighboring states, Louisiana and Alabama. They both were recently ordered to redraw congressional districts last election cycle, one in South Louisiana and one in South Alabama. I think that if the Voting Rights Act or that section of the Voting Rights Act was thrown out, that it would be very likely that you would see redistricting in Alabama and in Louisiana. I've not heard about Mississippi if our legislature would consider coming in. With the opinion coming down again sometime next year, that would not give Mississippi time to redraw our congressional districts for next year, but it could for the following election cycle. Again, not exactly sure what that opinion is going to look like, but it is an interesting legal argument. And for those of us who follow politics and follow what these congressional maps are going to look like, it is going to add a new twist to that once that opinion is handed down next year.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Mississippi not immune to that, even though it hasn't been at the congressional level. We've seen that with at the state level, and we've got special elections coming up in about 3 weeks for some districts, some 14 seats up for grabs in Mississippi because of redistricting. Last thing for you, we've got about 2 minutes until the break. I would love for you to go back and put your district attorney hat on if you don't mind. Last weekend was a really, really difficult weekend in the state of Mississippi. You had 5 different places where you had shootings or murders that occurred, kind of loosely surrounding the events of high school football games and college football games, 3 in and around high school campuses, a couple that were on college campuses. What do you make of what happened at home in Mississippi with this unnecessary death that we saw in our home state?
Yeah, particularly the shootings, if you look at the shooting in Leland was particularly troubling because of the number of individuals who were killed. And then I believe that there have been, if I'm not mistaken, half a dozen arrests made in that case.
Correct.
Many of those individuals charged with capital murder, and so capital murder still exists in Mississippi. We still have the possibility of individuals being sentenced to death by lethal injection by way of jury trial. The good thing is we have seen arrests made. We're seeing individuals being held accountable. I think now you've really got to look and you've got to follow is, we've got to make sure that there is aggressive prosecution. That's something that we've seen, not necessarily in Mississippi, but in some of your other areas across the country, particularly more urban areas, where you see individuals who have been arrested for very dangerous, violent crimes who have not been aggressively prosecuted. And look, I always believe that we as a society must send a message to those individuals who are committing violent crimes, who are preying on the elderly, preying on children. Those individuals, one, must be held accountable, but it also is a chance for us to send a message that we are not going to tolerate this behavior, and hopefully will serve as an incentive to others not to commit similar crimes. And so I think that's what we need to be watching going forward as
Congressman,
these cases play out within the criminal justice system, that they are held accountable.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Love to hear from you there this morning. C Spire, inspired by you. Happy to welcome our colleague here at SuperTalk Mississippi. He makes coastal Mississippi his home. Ricky Mathews, host of the Ricky Mathews Show, and also Super Talk Outdoors. We have been in a weather pattern where it has just been gorgeous every single day. Mid-80s, a lot of sunshine. Oyster season opened this week. I think it was October 13th was opening day for oyster season. How's the fishing? How are the oysters coming along? And is everybody ready for deer season on the coast?
Well, listen, hey, I was in the Mississippi Delta this past weekend getting ready, and it's super dry and dusty up there. We're going to maybe get a little bit of rain, but we need some rain. This is the time of year you pray for rain. On the coast, man, the weather has been unbelievable. I told my wife Ann yesterday, have you ever seen a string of days where we wake up and see such beautiful, clear skies? And what that means for fishing is I've had many charter boat captains on both of my shows. The fishing down here has never been better. It's absolutely incredible right now. So yeah, things are, we're in that change, man, moving from, the summer fishing trends to getting ready to go hunting. It's a beautiful time of year in Mississippi, that's for sure.
There's no question about it. Ricky, you and I have talked a lot about economic development in the southernmost part of the state, coastal Mississippi, as you have referred to it for a number of years right now. And your focus has been on a coastal Mississippi building economic alliance. And we've seen that work successfully in different parts of the state of Mississippi. Obviously, kind of the star in the crown is in the Golden Triangle with all that they've done with Link. We're seeing it in north central Mississippi with partnerships between Lafayette, Panola, Yellowbusha, and Tate counties. There are other parts of the state that have at least considered this, and you have advocated mightily through the pen and the typewriter, well, computer, and your words on the air that coastal Mississippi desperately needs this. Are we making any progress?
I think, what's very interesting, the last piece that I wrote talking about the labor pressures in Jackson County and how it's hard for a Bollinger or a Ingalls or Chevron or others to be parties to conversations about other maybe other shipbuilders coming to the community, because there's such a stress on the workforce right now. VT Halter Marine VT Bollinger, who bought VT Halter Marine, is going to add over 3,000 direct and indirect jobs as a result of this polar ice cutter project that they're involved in. So there's a lot of stress, and I think what that does is bring into focus, if we don't want more manufacturing like we have now, then what do we want? And one of my contentions, as I've told you many times before, I updated the numbers in this most recent piece that I wrote, but over 91,000 jobs in coastal Mississippi, direct and indirect, are tied to gaming and to government. That's shipbuilding, the military bases, and Stennis. And, do we want all our eggs in that basket? And the truth is that this is with all the success that they've had in the Golden Triangle and other parts of the state, we're still the economic engine for Mississippi down here. So you're operating from a position of strength. But when you start to factor in gaming competition, use of more advanced manufacturing techniques, you think about AI and what it's going to do. There's going to be some big challenges for us in the future. We should be having big conversations about how to diversify our economy. That's where my press is.
I agree on the diversifying piece, but I also would ask, is there something to the idea of leaning in to that which you are best at, or leaning into what the natural resources or the topography allows for? Is the best plan for coastal Mississippi to really diversify into more sectors, be it manufacturing or others, or is it better to say we've got this hub for shipbuilding, we've got this hub for military, and those are the sectors that we really need to lead into and capitalize on?
No, I actually think you're right about that. I believe we have to do it all. That's kind of where my head is. So
okay,
I was talking to someone called yesterday, a really significant economic leader in our state called me yesterday, and we had a over hour-long conversation, and we talked about the situation now as it relates to onshoring of shipbuilding and the efforts that Trump has underway. This may not be a limitless time that we have here. The opportunity in front of us may be short. And so we don't have time to sit around and think about this stuff. This is the time is now. And a lot of the stuff that we're thinking about that we would have to do is going to require time to put all these things in place. I was saying there are over 100,000 shipbuilders across America. The average age is over 50. They're losing those at 20% a year. So the manpower issues that we're experiencing here are common across the United States. So that's for sure. But man, let's face it, we're going to be building more ships in America. There's no doubt about that. And why not lean into it? And so there's a push and pull. Hey, I'll tell you another interesting thing. While there may be a lot of winking and nodding saying we don't want more shipbuilding and stuff may be being killed as we speak as a result of it, I'm also hearing from laborers who work in these places to say, let me understand what you're writing. There's an opportunity here for more shipbuilding opportunities that could actually raise our salaries and make us more successful. So there's, you got to look at both sides of the coin here. And I think we should lean into it. We should not have anti-gaming, anti-competition in gaming. We should build more gaming sites here because the barrier to entry is high. To build another resort here, you're talking about nearly $1 billion to be successful, and so on. You got Stennis, high tech, the opportunities in Pearl River County. It's enormous, but the point is we're not having a joint regional conversation about where we are now and where we want to go. That's where I am I'm urging them that we need to do that.
I was having a conversation with a guest I think it was a few months ago, and I asked him to explain to me, as someone who has not lived in coastal Mississippi, you have these 3 counties along the coast that are unique in the way they're made up and the way businesses are put together, and in some cases how they believe politically or what they believe in economically or whatever, and that historically they've all been kind of independent. Like, let us do our thing and you do your thing and kind of leave each other alone. How much of what you're talking about is a legitimate pushback against decades of what has been kind of the norm?
No, I actually think the way you described it, Roland Weeks, the former publisher of the Sun Herald, who we laid to rest, was it yesterday? Yes. I mean, my mentor, and I became publisher after him. He taught me a lot about the way it has always been. And he said we never really had to, the folks in Jackson never had to really pay much attention to us because we were so busy fighting amongst ourselves. But I think Katrina, Richard, changed so much for us. It brought us together. It forced us. There's a powerful lubrication, the change that comes from pain. Katrina brought that. We formed the Gulf Coast Business Council. We formed the Coastal Mississippi Tourism effort. I led tourism after for the Governor's Commission, and we recommended doing a regional effort toward tourism. So we've made a lot of progress. But what happens is people fall back into their silos. People, you get new people that come that don't have that history. The institutional knowledge is missing. We got a lot of older leaders. Unfortunately, too many have passed on, like George Schlegel and others. And so, it's a complicated place. Layers of the onion that are hundreds of layers thick. You get about 5 or 10 layers in, you think you understand it. It's so much more complicated than that. So it's hard. This is not easy work. But I think the best way to start is you got to say, let's stay at the table together, guys. Let's don't go back into our silos. Let's stay at the table together. Let's go at this together, and let's see where the future could take us if we're more proactive about some big stuff. Let's go build a 1,000-acre mega site somewhere. Let's go take from what they're doing in Alabama, what they've done in the Golden Triangle, and let's do that in coastal Mississippi, where ports are readily accessible and highway systems are readily accessible, and we're centrally located in America. Let's go take advantage of that. I think that's where we need to go.
Might it make sense for an automobile manufacturer to set up shop on the coast? Perhaps that's what diversifying might look like. We'll continue the conversation with Ricky Mathews, host of the Ricky Mathews Show and Mississippi SuperTalk Outdoors. After this quick timeout, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mr. Lewis and I are going to build ships together. Great big ships.
One of the iconic lines from Pretty Woman. Tip of the cap to my wife for sending me that clip this morning. I always think about that, Ricky, when you talk about the shipbuilding industry and the growth of that in coastal Mississippi. Ricky Mathews is my guest. He is the host of the Ricky Mathews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors that you can hear each week. I'd like, if we could, to switch gears for a minute. There is there's this massive debate that's happening locally across the entire state of Mississippi, and we know it's an issue that the legislature has set its sights on and is going to tackle, I think, right out of the gate when they come back into session in January, and that's this school choice, educational freedom conversation. And it seems to be an issue that has got pretty significant division. You got people that are absolutely for it, universal school choice, and then you got people that are absolutely against it. One of the things, Ricky, that we have seen is school districts almost preemptively have come out and said, no, we are not for school choice. And I think it's largely because they see that dollars that are currently allocated to public schools in a universal school choice situation could be moved to private schools or charter schools or other entities as they are set up. We know that coastal Mississippi has got some incredible school districts. What are you hearing locally in terms of across those three counties on the coast, opinions about this school choice conversation?
You know, one of the things that really occurs to me is that for people with means, you have school choice now. You know, that's one of the most important things to say to start out with. My kids went to the Catholic school system here in coastal Mississippi, and my grandkids now go to the Catholic school system. So parents with means are a way to do it, or determination, have some kind of school choice today. When I talk to public sector, school administrators, they're not for it. You know, I mean, you just said it. It seems to me that it probably is a lot about the money. They don't feel like they're being brought into the conversation. You follow me? They don't feel like they're being heard. And so on the House side, it's, Katie bar the door, full steam ahead. Mm-hmm. And then on this, as you already well know, on the Senate side, it's we're going to go forward, one step at a time. And so my sense is we'll land somewhere in between. But boy, I'm telling you, the administrators I talk to, they're going to dig in their heels. So the opposition for doing what the House wants to do is going to be very substantial. I'm sure you're hearing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I had a school administrator that talked about to me about this recently that said, going down this road further divides the haves and have-nots. You talk about it and you're like, oh, well, if you allocate dollars, you're going to give the opportunity for kids to go to places that they haven't. But if you create that opportunity to leave a failing school district, and I don't think there are many people that are against the idea of, if you are in a D or F district, having the opportunity to move into a district that better suits your needs. But you're going to further separate those that are doing well and those that are doing poorly, which I thought was an interesting position.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Look, one of the things that I'll never forget, this is when I was publisher of the Sun Herald. Haley Barbour had been governor for a little bit of time. And he had, just before he came to this editorial board meeting, he had visited a school. I wish I could remember where it was, but it was in a poor county in Mississippi. And the particular school district where he went, maybe it was just a school. It may have been a school. It may have been a school district. But the point I still can make clearly, not remembering that part, and that is that he was surrounded by failing schools. This area was surrounded by failing schools, but where he visited was doing extremely well. Mm. And he was really hit by it, that he said, gosh, man, it really is not a matter of whether it's in a poor area or a rich area or the haves and the have-nots. It all has to do with who's leading it. The schools that are led well tend to do well. The schools that have great teachers and have high standards even public schools or otherwise, tend to do well. And so I never will forget that. and giving parents the ability to find those schools, however they are. I wonder, for example, I think one of the most important things Mississippi did is broadband access. What they've done to work with electric co-ops to put miles and miles and miles of fiber optic cable in rural areas of Mississippi, and creating broadband accessibility for families is going to have impacts we can't fully understand now. But in really remote areas, are there remote learning opportunities here that would give parents the opportunity to not have to go to some high value, high cost private school? I don't know what the answers are going to be, but everyone deserves to have an education in a school like Haley described to me. That's what I will never forget, and that's what school choice is about.
Ricky Mathews is my guest, host of the Ricky Mathews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. This is a really big picture question, and I ask it because of your time in the publishing industry and covering politics at the state level and also at the national level. Historically, Republicans have the reputation for kind of being stodgy and button up and a little stiff, and Democrats a little more loose, a little more free-flowing. And there has been a sea change, and Republicans have become fun, and Democrats have become angry seemingly all the time.
Yeah.
How did this sea change happen?
Man,
I don't know if you were ready for that one.
Question. No, I wasn't, but I don't mind answering it. I'm center right. That's where I am in my world. So I represent a school of thought that represents the majority of Americans. Whether you're center left or center right. Most Americans are somewhere in the middle. But what I used to say is that the 10% of the polarizing ends on the left and the right tend to decide the conversation. But I don't actually say it that way anymore. I think on the left, the 10% are deciding the conversation. But what's happening, and you got to give Trump a lot of credit for this, that Trump has created a scenario where it's not like this wild, highly conservative 10% all the way polarizing to that end, deciding the conversation. It seems like everyone's sort of coalescing together around a school of thought. And it's a lot more organized where it seems that the right is a lot more in sync with one another, and they know what the message is. The message is clear. And over here, you've got the moderates that are just the moderates aren't even on the left are not even really able to say how they think because the conversations are being controlled by the 10%. So I think Trump gets a lot of credit for that. So we can talk about social media and how that divides us. We could spend a whole show on that. I came from that world, but boy, I tell you that the message is so clear on the Republican side. That's the bottom line. And it gets clearer, doesn't it, Richard? It doesn't get less clear. It gets more clear to me, especially when you start seeing international successes and. You see, this trade, how we're digging in around trade, and the average person can talk about it. In the old days, the average person couldn't even talk about it. But I'm talking to just normal people on the street today that can talk about these issues in ways you would have never seen back in my days when I was publisher of the Sun Herald. So it's a new world, man. And the way social media is engaging people, and whether it's dividing us or not, it's still informing them. And the message is a lot more clear on the right than it is on the left these days.
Yeah, it feels like kind of the three tent poles of the Republican Party are we want peace, and we want economic prosperity, and we want law and order. And it doesn't feel like those three things should be dividing ideas, and yet, when you say those things out loud. To the anger piece I was talking about, so security, I would put that in the law and order category. Yeah. But if you say those things out loud, there's somebody on the left that wants to scream, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a homophobe, you're a, whatever ist or obia there is, fill in the blank.
Yeah, listen, my leaning left friends are just going crazy over all this. I mean, and they have no control over the message. Sadly, it's very unfortunate.
Ricky, I always appreciate your time.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet, man. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you.
Good visiting with you as well. I know you're going to continue to beat the drum for economic partnership in coastal Mississippi, and couldn't be in more lockstep with you. I want to see great things. You've called it the economic engine of the state a number of times, and it's hard to argue with that given what's coming from the coast. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. My pleasure, my friend.
Ricky Mathews, host of the Ricky Mathews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors, a great lover of the state of Mississippi. We've got half an hour left with you. We're back on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Thanks to Ricky Mathews. Always appreciate his time. Good conversation. If you want to join the conversation, you may do so on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. It's a good idea from time to time for you to just check in on C Spire's website because they constantly have deals for you. C Spire evolving as a company, not just phones. Maybe that's what you most associate them with, but they are an advanced technology company that transforms how we connect, live, and work, whether it's through 5G nationwide coverage on your phones, fiber to the home with blazing fast speeds that give you the ability to work and live the way you want to, the way you need to, the way you have become accustomed to, and, of course, business IT services that can help you with all of your technology needs for your business to operate at peak efficiency. Check them out online at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. John in Pontotoc says, parents are blamed for attendance. Why not give them a choice? There are reasons why kids don't want to go to school.
Okay. Again, like what school is going to accept them, though? I mean, like if you look at the schools surrounding Leland, name one. I mean, I'll challenge you. Name any group of schools that's going to take all the kids that want to leave Leland. Now, again, I'm not advocating one or the other. I'm saying it's a much more complex issue than just saying, well, you know, this kid ought to have a choice. What if 200 of them want a choice and 200 of them leave? Where are they going to go? I mean, I think that's a question
and that's
that I keep asking.
the parents' responsibility. I mean, you talk about attendance issues when the school is close. How about when the school is 30 miles away, and it's a parent's responsibility to get the child to that school?
And we keep talking about, you know, I mean, we're not, okay, let's just use Leland as an example. There are quite a few school districts surrounding it in other counties, but, I mean, like, where, so like you said, I mean, if you're right down the street and you can't take care of that school or that community or the culture surrounding it, what makes you think it's going to be better to leave that and go to somewhere else that says, well, maybe we don't want that culture or that mindset here. We're happy with the way things are. So, I mean, the choice is there maybe, but what if there is nowhere to go? What if these schools don't want you? What if they're at capacity? So how does that solve the problem? It seems to me it kind of comes back to the community at some point. The parents, the leaders, the mayor, the police. You know, you got, as you said, I mean, are we going to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Like with no more tailgating because something happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's my question. I'm not advocating one or the other. I would like to see us think through this as we continue to do daily here and try to figure out what's best for Mississippi.
And if you have no idea what Lance is talking about with no more tailgating, we talked about this yesterday. There was advice, a suggestion that was passed down from the MHSAA for schools across Mississippi to eliminate on-campus tailgating before high school football games, as if that is going to solve the issue for gun violence that occurred after games, either on campus or off campus. By the way, there were a number of districts that said, yeah, thanks for the memo, we'll pass.
Yeah. Well, and I think Gary
said we're going to do what we believe we're going to do.
Gary and Carrollton makes a good point. When the problem is you, it's everywhere you go, there's going to be a problem. I mean, that's what I'm saying here. What if you are the problem and you want to run over here now or you want to go over there now? I mean, you're still the problem.
You know, one of the things that is interesting to me, and I've talked with legislators about this and talked with the lieutenant governor about it, talked with Speaker of the House about it, is that even if you were to roll out complete universal school choice, the number of students, the number of parents, the number of families that would actually take advantage of it is probably a pretty small percentage. Had a couple of people that pointed out, you were talking about Leland, Washington County, that you've got multiple districts there, but says you could go to Shaw, Greenville, Arcola, Indianola. Those are the surrounding school districts. And, are you talking about a massive upgrade in terms of school district? Or are you just doing it for convenience? What's the reason? I mean, different reasons for different people. Thomas says there wouldn't be that many that take advantage of it.
That's an assumption. Again, that's an assumption.
Who knows how ultimately it would play?
It's like when you ask, would you vote for J.D. Vance in 2028? I don't know. Maybe that's a long way away.
Yeah, need to get a little farther down the road on that. Boy, that's such a fascinating conversation, though. But we've got to get farther down the road before we can have that as an intelligent conversation. If you missed it earlier, we talked about it in our news headlines, and you didn't see this online yesterday. J.D. Vance making a trip to Mississippi. The Turning Point USA event. Turning Point, of course, the organization that was built and founded by Charlie Kirk and is now being led by his wife, Erica Kirk. Ole Miss hosting a Turning Point event on October 29th in the Pavilion. And the two featured speakers, Vice President J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk. And it is the only scheduled keynote speaking address that Erica Kirk is going to give on this Turning Point tour. Chose to make it this one, and will do so along with the Vice President, J.D. Vance. And I thought it was interesting, J.D. Vance, in an interview with the folks from Turning Point yesterday, I guess they still call it the Charlie Kirk Show, said that he was looking forward to it, and said that his working plan, as of now with this event still a couple of weeks away, was to give a short speech and then to do what Charlie did, and that is to engage with the audience. He said, I want to hear from these kids. I want to hear their ideas, hear their questions, and try to answer them as best I can. The expectation from the folks at Turning Point is that this is going to be a full house event inside the pavilion. They're expecting 8, 9, 10,000 people. Tickets are available online, but priority for those tickets goes to students on the Ole Miss campus. And I would assume high school students as well. You can go to theturningpointtour.com and you can register to get tickets. I know yesterday you got kind of a confirmation of a general admission ticket, but it was like a wait list deal because they're going to make it available first and foremost for students. So it's going to be interesting to see how that event goes on October 29th. I think it started at 6:30. Pretty cool that's happening here in Mississippi. There was a reporter yesterday that had a question for, I think her title now is Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi. Did you see or did you hear this interaction?
Are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions.
Ooh. Shut up. The first question, are you concerned about being held liable with the new January 6th committee? She asked it again. Nancy Pelosi was good with ignoring that one. But when hit with Why did you refuse to send the National Guard on January 6th? She stopped in her tracks, wheeled around, put her finger in the face of the reporter and said, "Shut up." I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't ask for them. Why are you here with Republican talking points? Trying to be a serious journalist. Anger.
Ooh.
Anger.
Jimmies are rattled, baby.
And look, I mean, I brought that up with Ricky a second ago. When did it occur? When did you have this shift? And I'm not saying that the Republican Party is all, rainbows and sunshine and unicorns all the time. But generally speaking, the Republican Party seems to be more fun. Like they're having more fun. Maybe it's because they're winning right now, and winning is fun. But the message from Democrats over and over and over is a message of anger. When's the last time you heard Bernie Sanders talk and it didn't sound like he was angry? When's the last time you heard AOC talk and it didn't sound like she was angry? When's the last time you heard Nancy Pelosi open up her mouth and it not sound like she was angry? Like when she said to this reporter,
Guard on January 6th.
Shut up.
Does that sound happy? Does that sound fun?
Sounds deranged.
Shut up. Reporter said the American people still have questions. She's not wrong.
And you think Nancy Pelosi cares about the American people?
And just let that one hang. We'll wrap it up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. More coming up next.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Try not to have to drop it. Men are not to cry. So how am I to stop it? Keep it all inside. Don't show how much you rock it. Ooh, can it feel sad?
Last time with you on this Thursday morning, 16th of October. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. I guess last night was Town Hall night. You had the Town Hall at the Kennedy Center, where Chris Cuomo was hosting along with Stephen A. Smith, Bill O'Reilly, and John Fetterman. And then you had CNN Town Hall Shutdown America.
They're like celebrating it.
Shut Down America, presented by CNN. Bernie Sanders taking questions from the audience. Question, Bernie begins to answer. The questioner shakes his head, and Bernie goes, whoa, what do you think? Listen to this exchange.
How do you think this shutdown reflects on Chuck Schumer's leadership?
Well, I think it reflects more on Mike Johnson's leadership and President Trump's leadership. This is a leadership which said it's okay to give well, how do you feel? You tell me. Think it's a good idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the richest people in the country and then make massive cuts to health care for working class people?
I think Chuck Schumer has voted for continuing resolutions 13 times in the last 4 years, and he has the opportunity to vote for one again, but he's refusing to come to the table.
I think, look.
What's your opinion, son? And then he gives it. He's like, whoa, I think. Rapid Response 47 has that clip. I would encourage you to watch it because the smirk on this young man's face. I mean, he gives this like wide-eyed smirk and kind of shakes his head, and Bernie's like, well, fine, what do you think? I mean, you could tell he was put off with it. It was something. It was something. That was not the only question, though, that Bernie Sanders got from a young person, where they were kind of pushing back and challenging. Let me see if I've got this saved. I've got it somewhere.
You did see the breaking news about Fetterman. I sent you a moment ago.
I did. I was going to grab that in just a second. Go ahead and read that tweet that you sent.
Well, I was just saying, Democrats are plotting a primary challenge against Senator John Fetterman, Democrat Pennsylvanian, is coming re-election per Axios. So that's the starting point. Some Democrat officials are openly contemplating running against Fetterman or keeping the door open to a Senate bid in the event he retires. So on and so forth. So find that on Axios. Just came out.
All right. And Fetterman's response was, okay. If they muddy the waters in the state of Pennsylvania, and that opens up potentially another seat in the Senate for Republicans, it could have a backfire effect. Certainly could have a backfire effect. Man, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, I think we need to change the opening song to the Days of Our Lives theme song, just to get some drama circulating at 6 a.m.
Like Sands Through the Hours.
That's the one. I would play that for Scott Sands here and there.
Amanda in Pike County says, Bernie sounds like the aardvark from the Pink Panther. Dun, dun, dun. Did you like the Pink Panther?
Yeah, I actually did. I'm a big fan of the original movies too. With Peter Sellers. So they kind of went together a bit as far as having a cinema is a real cinema movie versus also the cartoon.
Give you a piece of bad news. Give you a piece of good news to finish up. We'll start with the bad and we'll finish on the good. District of Columbia Judge Kendra Briggs has allowed the two teenagers who jumped Edward Big Balls Korstein to avoid jail. You saw the pictures of Edward beaten to a pulp, bloodied face, chest, arms, sitting there with his shirt off. You saw that picture going around. She sentenced them simply to probation, stating that her job is to rehabilitate, not punish. That's the bad news. Here's the good news for you. A report from Fox News yesterday. There is a surge in Christianity in the United States. Since 2022, annual sales of the Bible in the United States up 42%. Downloads of religious and spirituality apps across all platforms since 2019 up 79.5%. Contemporary Christian music downloads and streams on Spotify since 2019 up 50%. The good news indeed. Thanks for being with us. Dave and Lance will have you tomorrow morning. I will be back on Monday after a quick trip to Charlotte this weekend. Look forward to being with you to start the week next week. Thanks for being with us. For Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Mornings with Richard Cross presented by Community Bank. Hope you have a great Thursday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.